Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this video, we're gonna prepare the circles, the joint circles. Okay, so this is, remember, the joint circles are gonna help you to get very smooth rigs so your characters can move really good and not look weird when anything distorts, right? So for that, we need the joint circles. So let's create them. What I'm gonna do right now in Illustrator is I'm gonna create a new layer. So I go to the layers panel and just click on the new layer icon. And that layer is gonna be called joints. Okay? And in there, I'm gonna start adding some circles. Let me select the ellipse tool from the tools bar. I think this is regularly has the rectangle tool, so you can click and hold and then select the ellipse tool. There you go. And now I want this to be color black. Let me select in here and just make sure it's black. If in your case it was other color, well, just pick the color black and then enter. And let me zoom in, and I'm gonna start adding circles to make everything rotate smoothly. So let me add a circle for the head. And in here, I'm gonna be changing some sizes. Let me press V and then change the rotation in here. To be, actually, I want this to be exactly with the same width as the neck. So let me change this a little bit, and I can see that it's snapping. I don't like it to snap when I'm working with a circle. So let me go to view, the view menu, and then just make sure it's not snapping. Okay, there you go. Now it is a little bit smoother. Let me bring it up, and remember, we need this joint circle to be around the lips. Okay. And that's it. I think that works. And as you can see, we have the circle here. And then the neck, look, this is the shape of the neck. Can you see? Is not perfectly aligned with the circle. But right now, we're not going to worry about any of that. Right now, our main focus is going to be to just put the circles there. In the next lesson, we're going to do all the adaptations. But right now, let's just focus on putting the circles, okay? So let's continue. And in here, all I do is I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and then press Alt and then click and drag. There you go. And now let me zoom in a little bit. I want this to be a little bit bigger because I want it to have the size of the arm right here. And also I'm focusing on this little part. I want this to be nice and round. So later, again, I'm gonna do some modifications to the arm so the arm and the shoulder are perfectly aligned. Actually, I think right there is looking good. But later, we're also going to do some modifications. Right now, again, we're just focused on the circles. And look, I'm spotting a little error in here. I don't like this skin part going out. So let me press Ctrl and then click on that element, and then with Ctrl selected, click on this little point. Oh, actually, this little point. Well, actually, let me just select the direct selection tool. It's easier. Click here and then click on that anchor and just move it inside. There you go. Okay, good thing we spotted some mistakes in there. Okay, very good. Let me continue. I'm gonna press V to select the move tool and then click on the black circle, then Alt, just Alt, not Alt space, Alt, and then put it also in position around there. And later we do the adjustments to the rest of the body, but not yet. And then let's put the next joint circle, which is gonna be with it's gonna be aligned with the elbow. So let me change the size like that. And I'm trying to have this centered. So I think right there is looking good. Then zoom out and then Alt, click and drag and put the other one. Let me just zoom in and put it in place right there. And then I'm gonna create another copy for the wrists. Let me zoom in and put this in place. Now I create a duplicate and put it on the other side. Again, be very careful and try to put it as precise as possible. You don't have to be perfect, but I do want this to have the same size. And what I'm gonna do later in the next lesson is that I'm gonna do some adjustments to the, for example, this layer to be fitting inside this circle. So right now, let's just continue. Now, for the legs are gonna be a little bit tricky because the rotation for the legs, usually when we have this width of the leg, the circle has to be that big too. So let me take the one shoulder and then Alt, click and drag. And look, for the leg, we need this to really be like this. It has to be rotating from here. I'm thinking of the bone structure. With the bones, if we visualize the bones, they would be like this. And in here would be the leg. Okay? So the center of the circle should be around there. Okay, so I think right there works well. And also I think that size is okay. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. And that's it. Now I duplicate it and bring it to the other side. Actually, I'm gonna bring it to the other side pressing Alt and Shift. Now Alt, click and drag, and then hold Shift to constrain the X movement. There you go. Okay, and now I just Alt and click to bring this circle to the knees. Let me put it in place and make it with the correct size. Now the other knee, I click and drag right there. And then the feet. And that's it. Let me press Ctrl 0. And those are all the joints, I believe. Yes, that's it. Okay, so that's it. Now, in the next lesson, I'm gonna show you how to, I'll change a little bit of the body parts. We need every single part, for example, for the wrist, to perfectly be on that circle. Okay, so all of that is gonna be covered in the next lesson. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this lesson, we're gonna do little modifications to the drawing so it fits perfectly with each of the joint circles. Okay, so let's do that. I'm gonna go in and just go ahead and select the direct selection tool from the toolbar. Then I'm gonna click on the neck. Now we do have a problem in here. The neck is on the head. That's not where it should be. The head should be alone. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the head and then, oops, there's another group. Let me open it there. And there it is. This shape right here is the neck. So I'm just gonna take it, click and drag, and move it into the hip. There you go. There's where the neck should be. Now there's a challenge in here. As you can see, the hair, this part of the hair, should be behind. So this is gonna be tricky. Right now we're gonna leave it like this. But later, we're gonna have this on a layer called back hair, okay? Right now, don't worry about it. But just for the purposes of this rig, I'm gonna hide it, okay? But as you can see later, this is sequential. Right now, we don't have to worry about some things. Right now, we're focusing on only the joint circles. Later, we're gonna put the head when we do the rigging. The hair is gonna be part of the head, but it's gonna be behind the body. I'm gonna show you all of that on time. Right now, don't worry about it. Later, we're gonna make this part visible again, but right now, let's focus on the neck. With the direct selection tool, I just click on the neck, and then let me zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna just bring these points to the corners of the circle, like that. And that's it. That's all I need. Later, I'm gonna conform this with a circle, but as of right now for this lesson, I'm only worrying about having the parts of the character fit perfectly with the circles. Now let me show the back of the hair again and zoom out, and now I'm gonna work with the shoulders. For the shoulders, I mean this arm, I think right there is looking good, but I'm gonna do a little modification. Oops, let me undo that. Remember that you first have to click on the anchor and then move it up right there, and then I'm just gonna change this vizier, and that's it. Now I put this on a better position like so, and then let me change this a little bit, and there, now it's gonna be rotating perfectly for the arm. I'm just gonna take the joints and hide it to see. Okay, it's okay. I just wanted to see how it would look. I was thinking and planning how would this rotate it. So what I'm gonna do is that this joint circle later is gonna be below, when we add this duplicate of the circle, is gonna be below the chest. Okay, so let me continue. I'm gonna do this other side. I think this one looks okay. And let me just do a little modification in here for this point. And let me just move the handles a little bit. And there. I think that's circling perfectly. And then I need to change this part. Let me put this, Control Z. Click on the anchor first, then put it in place. It's gonna be around here. There, and then this one, I think right there works great. Now the other side, I click on the arm, and well, actually this one is looking really good. First click on the vector, remember, then put it in place, move the vizier handles if you need to, and then this one, I think it's on a very, very good place right there. Okay, so that's it. Now let's continue with the forearm. Ooh, the forearm is looking really good. Let me just put it a little bit more precise and have this handle go a little bit down. Let me zoom out to see if I'm not deforming anything. No, it's looking okay. And this one, let me just increase the curve in here. Okay, let me make sure, well, in here I did change the shape a little bit. There you go. Now let me do the other part, the forearm. Ooh, this also is looking really good. Let me just do a little quick modification. And there you go. I think that's it. And finally, the wrist. I'm gonna be changing the forearm first, right there, and then on the other side. Okay, and now the wrist. I'm gonna do this with this layer. This can be a little bit tricky, but not too much. Actually, right there is looking good. Let me put this right there. In here, I don't like this shape, so I'm also going to change this. Let me put it in place more like this. There you go. Now let me do it for the other side. And that's it for the arms. Very good. Now the legs are the tricky part. I need to make adjustment to the hip and then each of the legs. So first, let me take the hip and then just bring this point a little bit up, actually to the center of the circle. But I want to keep the hips the way they are. So I need to adjust this a little bit and then put it in place again. Right there. And then do the same with the other side. There you go. Now let's do some modification to the legs. Okay, for this one, I'm choosing this shape. Let me show you. I'm gonna hide the other leg right here, and also I'm gonna hide this other circle. Let me pick it here in the workspace and then hide it right here. It's this one. Let me hide it and see how it's looking. And also let me hide these other parts too. I'm gonna hide the hip. Okay, so look at the shape I'm putting in here. I think that's gonna work good. So that is the shape. I just, if you can see, I changed a little bit of the trajectory of the vizier handle, this angle. Can you see? So I'm gonna leave it like that and repeat it for the other one. So let me show that circle and let me show the hip again. And also show the thigh. Now everything is showing again. And let's continue. I'm gonna click on the other leg and do the same. There you go. Okay, now I think this is working. Very good. I just feel as if this leg is a little bit wider. So let me see if I can fix this and have, there you go. I think right there it's okay. Now let's fix the knees. As you can see, this is wrong. Let's put this with the joint circle. Now I take the skin and then just bring this in. We don't have to be very specific in there. And that's it. Now the other side. Right there. Then I take the skin part and just bring it, oops. Click first on the vector. And then just bring it in. And in here I don't want any accidents. So let me also make sure. Okay, what I was doing was this. I was focusing on having the skin leg being inside the clothes. The same for this other skin leg. Can you see? I want it inside the clothing. Okay, so that's it. Now the next one, the shank. I think this one is working great. Yeah, this one is really good. And then this one, well, for this one we do need to modify it a little bit. And also I don't want this outside the circle, so let me modify this curve with the vizier handle. And that's it. Now it's inside the circle. Let's see if it's still looking good. Yeah, I like it. Let me zoom in. And now we just need to do the same for the ankles. Let's do that. Then on the other side, careful when you do this. Sometimes I select the object and I forget to first click on the vector and then move it. So be really careful with that. Okay, so that's it. Now I'm gonna do the same for the foot. Oops, again I was moving everything. Let me click on the vector first and then put it in place. And then click on the vector and then put it in place. There you go. Then click on the vector of the foot. Put it in place. Let me zoom in for this one. Then put it in place. And then last thing right here. Okay, now everything is put together nicely. I'm gonna press Ctrl 0 and everything, every part of this character is done perfectly. It's going to rotate very smoothly. Okay, so now in the next lesson we're gonna do the duplicates of those circles and conform it to each of the body parts. So now the body parts are gonna be the ones with the circles, and this is gonna be ready for the rigging. Okay, so that's it, and see you in the next lesson. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this lesson, we're gonna make a duplicate of the circles to put it on each part of the layers. Okay, so let's get it started. The first thing I want to do to make my life easier is that I want to see which element in here. I just see the word ellipse and I want to see which one is which. So I'm gonna rename all of these. I'm gonna alt click to select the circle in the workspace, and when I do alt click it selects itself right here. So okay, that is the right hand. And then we have the left hand. Then we have the left forearm, then right forearm, and I'm gonna continue doing this in fast forward. Okay, now that I have everything with the proper names, now I'm going to quickly rearrange them. Let me do that in fast forward. Okay, there you go. Now I have the hand, then hand, forearm, arm. Hand, forearm, arm. then foot, shank, leg, foot, shank, leg. Great. Now this should be easier. What I'm gonna do now is that I'm going to collapse the head, and then what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna be bringing each circle, actually a duplicate of each circle, to each one of the layers. Okay, now remember, when we're talking, for example, about the shoulder, this circle has to be on this shoulder and also has to be on the hip, because there has to be two circles like this one. Okay? So let's do this. I'm gonna start with the head. The head has to go, one copy has to go for the head and another one for the neck. Well, actually, for the head we don't need a copy, only the neck. So let me just hold Alt and then click and drag into the hip right there. Let's see if it's there. And now I just hide the joints, and now I want to hide the head and make sure, yes, there's a copy right there. Okay, let me show everything again. And that's what we're gonna be doing. Now, the next one is gonna be the hand. Let's go in this order. The left hand. One has to go for the left hand, and another copy has to go for the left forearm, because we're talking about these two, the left hand and the left forearm. Then let's do the left forearm. It has to go with the forearm and the arm. Let's do this. I take this, the left forearm, I'm pressing Alt, then click and drag to the left forearm, and then Alt, click and drag into the left arm. I was pointing in here, but actually this is the left. Okay, let's see. This is the one I put in the correct position. Then left forearm, I'm pressing Alt click, yes. And then the arm. The arm has to go one with the arm and one with the hip. So Alt click, one goes with the hip, then Alt click and drag the left arm into the left arm. There you go. We're done with this first four. Now let's do the next one. Is gonna be the right hand. I Alt click is right here. I Alt click and drag the right hand into the right hand, and then Alt click and drag the right hand into the right forearm. These two, and then the forearm, this circle. It's gonna go to the forearm and the arm. So let's do that. I press Alt and then click and drag the right forearm right here, and then Alt click and drag the right forearm into the right arm. There you go. And finally, to finish with this arm is gonna be the right arm, this one right here. So I Alt click the right arm into the right arm, and Alt click the right arm into the hip. Perfect. Now these are perfectly synchronized. Now we need to do 6 more. Let's do that. I'm gonna go with the right foot, which is this one. I Alt click and drag into the right foot, and then Alt click and drag the right foot into the right shank. And now goes the shank. Alt click and drag the shank into the shank, and then Alt click and drag the shank into the right thigh. There you go. So now there's a copy in both the shank and the thigh. And finally, let's do this one, which is gonna be the right leg. This right leg is going to go to the thigh and to the hip. Okay, so Alt click and drag the right leg into the right thigh, and then the right leg into the hip. There you go. And then the last 3, the left foot, Alt click the left foot into the left foot, and then again the left foot into the shank, and then Alt click the left shank into the left shank, and then left shank into the left thigh. Finally, the Alt click the left leg into the left thigh, and last one, Alt click the left leg into the hip. There you go. Now we are done with the joints. Perfect. And that's it for this lesson. Now in the next one, we're gonna add a little hair cross. So when we're doing the rigging, let me show you, we want to be rotating exactly at the center of each circle. So at one point, this circle is not gonna be black, it's gonna be the color of the jeans. So we might get lost. So it's very good to have a hair cross in here so we can put the bone exactly there. Okay, so we're gonna be doing the hair cross, the little drawings for the precision rigging in the next lesson. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this lesson, we're gonna add a little hair cross so we can have very precise rigging. Remember, all our effort is going to be wasted if at the end we're gonna be losing control of our characters. That's not what we want. The most disappointing thing is to put so many hours and effort and at the end lose control of your character and you go, all this rig for nothing. So I like to spend a little bit more time to do that hair cross. So it's very precise when we do the rigging as we have been doing in the previous lessons. So let's do that in here, but this time we're gonna do it in Illustrator. Okay, so in the last lesson we were left off with this. And before I start conforming the circles into the character, that means coloring these circles blue with the same blue of the jeans, for example. And I really hope this is blue. Let me just check really quick because I'm really bad at colors. I'm colorblind. Yeah, it's bluish. Yeah, okay. So yeah. And now what we're gonna be doing is creating the little hair cross. For that, I'm just gonna use a little white cross and put it at the center of each circle. So let me do that. All you do is in the joints, you just select the joints layer, and then I go to the toolbar, and instead of using the ellipse tool, I'm gonna use the rectangle tool. And instead of black, I'm gonna click, well, that one is not black, it's the blue. I'm gonna use white. There you go. Enter. And then I create a little hair cross right here. And then I'm gonna duplicate it. All I do is press V and then Alt, click and drag, and then I'm just gonna rotate it holding Shift so it rotates perfectly. And let's center that right there. And then I'm gonna take both and look what I'm gonna do. Well, actually this is not perfectly centered. Let's see. I'm gonna align them. If you go to the top toolbar, you can align them on the center right there, and then align them vertically. There you go. And now what I'm gonna do is with those two selected, I'm just gonna hover my mouse on top of that circle, and as you can see, when I do that, I can see the center of the circle. Can you see it? Right around there. Let me do that. Can you see? So now I'm gonna use the arrow keys to put it exactly on the center. There you go. Now I duplicate that and move it here, and then put my mouse there and center it. All right. Now let me do that again. I press Alt, click and drag, and put it in the center right here. Okay. It's not perfectly centered, but that is okay. Let's see. Yeah, with the I'm getting as close as I can with this. Okay, like that. And then Alt, click and drag, and let's see. And right there is centered. Okay. Now Alt, click and drag, and I'm gonna be doing that. Let me complete this in fast forward. And that's it. Now I have everything centered. Now something that you might find very useful, that I used to do this with the arrow keys, but when I was doing this, I could tell that if I hover the mouse in there, okay, around there is the center, and then I bring this design, at some point you can see that it snaps into the center. right there. Can you see? It's centered. Then I leave it there, and now it's perfectly centered. Okay, so that's it. Now we can start conforming the circles into the character, and that is what we're gonna do in the next lesson. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. Okay, so we are almost done with preparing the character for rigging. Okay, so just so you know, let's see the big picture. Right now, in the rigging roadmap, we did the character, okay, so we prepared it, and then we're doing the preparation for the rigging. Everything we're doing is prepared for the rigging. We added the joints and everything, and then we're gonna be able to import the template, but for that, we need to transport the character from here into a PSD that we can import the template to. Okay, so let's continue. All we need to do now is conform the circles into the character. So what I'm gonna do is open the joints, and then instead of having one layer in here, let me select, I have the joints layer selected. I'm gonna create a new one, and this one is gonna be called hair cross. Okay, and then I'm gonna just take all the white layers in here, take them, click and drag into the hair cross, and actually is misspelled. Let me fix that. Hair cross. There you go. And that's it. Now I can hide the joints because we don't need to see them, and we're gonna be checking and changing the colors for each of the joints in each of the elements. So let me also hide the hair crosses, and let's start with the hair front. No, we don't need any there. Then the glasses, then the head. None of these have circles. Now the left hand, that one has a circle. So I'm going to isolate it. I'm gonna hide everything else and just leave the only layer I'm working, which is the hand. Let me zoom in, and with the direct selection tool, I just click on that circle and then press I, and then click on the skin color. There it is. Super easy. Now, the next one is gonna be, I hide that, I show the forearm, and then Control. Look, I have the eyedropper tool selected, but when I press Control, it selects temporarily the direct tool, the direct selection tool. So with that, I click on the black circle, then I release, and then click on the skin color. Super cool. Now I go up, Control, click on the circle, I release Control, click on the skin. Great. Now I do the next one. I hide that one, show the right hand, and it's right here. You can also press Control 0 if you struggle finding it, and then zoom in. Then Control click, and then I release Control and click. There you go. Now I show the forearm right here. I Control click on that circle, click on the skin, Control click on the circle, click on the skin. Then the hip. Okay, this one is gonna be a little bit tricky. And actually, I need the circle for the leg. I didn't import the copy for the leg. So let me just open this left thigh. Actually, is the right. Sorry, is the right thigh. Let me show it and show this leg. Yes. And then, which one is it? The right shank. I just Alt click on it, and no, it's not the shank, it's the right leg. Alt click there. Yes, this is it. Then Alt click and drag into the hip. There you go. Okay, very good. Now let me hide this, show, and I'm gonna hide the right thigh. And with that circle selected, I just release anything without any control, and then I just click. There you go. Now this part is done. But this one is gonna be a little bit tricky because these circles have to be behind everything, and it cannot be the same color of the blouse. It has to be the same color of the sleeves. So for that, I'm gonna show the left arm, and then Alt, well actually first Control, click on the circle, then release Control, click on the sleeve. Then Control, click on the circle, release Control, click on the sleeve. There you go. Now, what I'm gonna do is take these two circles, the right arm and the left arm, then click and drag to be below everything else. There you go. Now I can hide the left arm, and now it's gonna work. This is the way I want it, right? Because those are gonna be aligned with the arms. And let me zoom in here. Okay, I'm noticing this little detail. Let me change it. I'm gonna press A, then click on this little corner. I just click first to select the vector and then just move it up a little bit. There you go. Let's see on the other side. Okay, the other side is good. I press Ctrl 0. Yeah, it's looking good. Let's continue. Now I'm gonna press Ctrl, click on the circle, and then I press I, and then click on the neck. There you go. Now it's done. Let me press Ctrl 0. Yeah, that's the hip. I hide it. Then I show the left arm. I zoom in, and then Ctrl, click on the circle. I release Ctrl, click on the skin. Ctrl, click on the circle, release, and click on the sleeve. Very good. Now the right arm. Ctrl, click on the circle, click on the skin. Ctrl, click on the circle, release, and click on the sleeve. There you go. And now the thighs. Okay, let's do it super easy. Ctrl, click, release, and click. Ctrl, click, release, and click. And then the left shank. Ctrl, click, release, click. Ctrl, click, and release, but click on the skin. Good. Then the foot. Ctrl, click, and click on the skin. Then finally, the left leg. Ctrl, click, and click. Ctrl, click, and click. I'm gonna go a little bit faster. We're about to be done. Ctrl, click, and click. Ctrl, click, and click. Oops, click. And then finally, the right foot. Ctrl, click, and click. Great. Now I press Ctrl 0 and show every single layer, but I'm gonna hide the joints. Okay, so right now we could just take it and okay, yes, let's start with Photoshop. Not yet, because remember, there are several problems that could happen when you bring this character into Photoshop. We're gonna do it. We're gonna test if it works on Photoshop, but let's mind that there are many groups, and remember, when you have too many groups, sometimes some layers merge together. So let's test it, and if everything goes well, then great. But I'm still going to show you some problems that you might face, okay? So let's go into the next lesson, in which we're gonna take this character and export it into PSD and see if it works, okay? We will do that in the next lesson. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this lesson, we're gonna do a quick test of exporting this character into PSD and then try to open it in Photoshop. See if everything works perfectly. Okay, so let's do that. I have this project where we left off on the last lesson. So let me just go to File and then Export and Export As. From there, I'm gonna go to the folder, Lesson 6. And then this is gonna be the save as type is gonna be Photoshop PSD. And this one, instead of preparation, is gonna be called rig. This is gonna be the one we're gonna rig. So let's see. I export it. I press OK. And after it exports, I just paused it so you don't have to see the exportation. And then let's open it in Photoshop. Let's see if it works. And here's the file. What I want to see is compare the number of layers we have here, or folders, and compare it with the number of folders we have there. So let me collapse everything in here. And I should have, let's count them. This is 1, and then I'm gonna just be using Alt and then the closing bracket. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, now let me compare this with what we have in Illustrator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18. Ooh. 19. There's one layer missing. So let's compare. We have the right foot, yes, the shank, and then the thigh, and then the foot, the shank, the thigh, the arm, left arm, the hip, the forearm, hand, head, glasses, hair front. Okay, the joints is missing. Oh, and I see why, because it was disabled. But we don't need it. That's the good news. So yes, everything worked out perfectly. So that's it for the lesson. Now in the next one, we're gonna check a typical problem that you might face. Okay? See you in the next lesson. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this video, I'm gonna talk about a typical problem that might happen to you. Okay, so in the last lesson, we saw how we exported this character, and then because we had the joints off, they didn't export. So that's okay because we don't really need it. But this is how the character was exported. Now, right now, this character is an RGB character, right? Now, here's something interesting. Sometimes this is a problem that you might face. We faced it on the testing, and we don't want you to be. When that problem I'm gonna talk about you. When I faced it, I was like, I don't understand. Here's what happened. I would take the character from Illustrator, then to Photoshop. Everything was working, but then I wanted to import it into Cartoon Animator, and there was an error. Cartoon Animator would just say, no, we don't accept that file. And I was like, what? It's a PSD file. But here's the thing. Then I learned, like, oh, okay. There's one very interesting reason why when you're doing the selection in Illustrator, let me go to Illustrator right here. Remember, we had the character sheet with all the options, and then when we made the selection, I suggested that you do this. Create a new document and go for web. Remember? We use the web, and then we use all of this. There's one very interesting reason, because we want it in RGB mode. When you create a character with print, that is CMYK color, then the character is not going to be able to export properly. You would export it to Photoshop, and instead of saying RGB, is going to say CMYK. And the quick fix is doing this. Just create a new document, and then the document is going to be 1000 by 1500 pixels, and the color mode has to be RGB. This is important. If the document is anything else than RGB, like for example for printing, then Cartoon Animator is not going to open it. So let's put RGB, then create. And then all you do is take all the layers. I just click on the top one, hold shift, click on the foot, and then click and drag into this document. And then actually in here it's a little bit big, so all I'm gonna do is just make it smaller and resize it. And that's it. So we're done. It's a quick fix. So the lesson here is don't create characters for the printing color mode, which is the CMYK. Create your characters with a color mode of RGB. And if you messed up, just create a new document on RGB and you're set. So that's the typical problem. Now, in the next lesson, we're gonna have a quick review of the roadmap and what we're gonna be doing, because now this character is gonna be ready for rigging. Okay, so see you in the next lesson. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this video, we're gonna do a quick review of where we are in the rigging roadmap. Okay, so as we know, in the rigging roadmap, there are the 6 steps, right? And we already went through the character, right? This is when you get the character from Shutterstock or from Adobe Stock. One very complex character, right? But for that, not only did we have to download it, we downloaded and also had to make sure we make a decision. We don't want a multi-character. That is a waste of time. It's better to define what you want so you can focus on that selection only. And that way, you're stress-free rigging, because that's all you're gonna need. That's everything you need in your story. Okay, so we went through that, and then we do a lot of preparation in Adobe Illustrator, and then we exported this character into Photoshop, right? Now, before we move on to step 3, which is importing the template, we're gonna stick right here in preparing for the rigging a little bit more, because we need to rename some layers and make sure everything is fine and dandy inside Photoshop. So starting in the next lesson, we're gonna be doing renaming for the layers of the talking head. We're actually gonna create the full character and rig it, but we're gonna rig a very simple talking head. For the level, this is level 7. Level 7 is understanding the complex template of a very complex character. Level 8, the last level, is fully mastering the 360 face. Okay, so see you in the next lesson, in which we're gonna do the renaming for some layers. Take care. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this really quick lesson, we're gonna be renaming all the layers so we can have everything ready for the rigging once we import the template. Okay, so let's get it started. Right here, I'm in Photoshop with the character open, and we see a couple of layers, groups right here, a lot of folders, right? So what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna go in and just make sure that each of the elements are in a single layer. That is, right now, if you open, for example, glasses, I can see that this one is made of a couple of elements, right? The path, some other groups, and everything is working, but this doesn't have to be in a group. So I can just press Ctrl E, and those are the glasses. That's all we need for this. And then let me do the head. This actually, we're gonna call it talking head. And then for the left hand, this is very interesting. If you want a challenge, you can design different hands for this character, but right now we're not gonna cover that. Okay, so all you need to know is that you can have different drawings, as we covered in the sprites section. So in here, if you wanted, you could have this version of the hand and then another one, and just have each one right like this, named the same left hand, and then a pseudonym, for example, open. And then I could have another hand. I'm just gonna duplicate this one, Ctrl J, and this could be, for example, a fist, right? And of course, all those different hands can be taken from the original Adobe Illustrator file, right? But right now, again, we're not gonna cover that. And let's just continue. All you would do is just make sure that each one of them has the same circle of the joint, and just have everything synced. But for now, again, I'm just gonna delete this. And what you would do when you do the rigging is you select all the hands and put them in the same left hand folder. Okay, so let's continue. The forearm, it should be another layer. I press Ctrl E, and then the right hand, again, I just press Ctrl E, then the forearm, then the hip. All of this should also be a single image. So I press Ctrl E, then the left arm, Ctrl E. Even though it has 2 layers, all of these should be one single image. And then the right arm, then the thigh, then the shank, the foot, the other thigh, shank, and foot. So all I was doing was selecting them and pressing Ctrl E. And remember, you can do that when you have the layer selected or the group, then go to layer menu and then merge down. That was what I was doing, Ctrl E. In Mac, I believe is Command E. So now that I have all of this, let's go to the talking head. This one is the challenging one. Let's open it and boom, I have a folder in here that says head. All I'm gonna do is ungroup it. I'm gonna press Ctrl Shift G, which, let me undo that, is the same as going to layer and then ungroup layers, which is Shift Ctrl G in Windows. So I just selected Shift Ctrl G, and now what I'm gonna do is find which group is what element, and I'm gonna rename it. So for that, I'm gonna press Ctrl and then collapse all of them. On Mac, you press Command. And then let's see what element is this. Okay, so I can see that the eyes for this type of character are very, very simple. It's not a character that has a white and then the pupil is gonna be moving and then the eye. So for this one, if I was going to use it, I wouldn't use it to turn to one way or to the other. It would just be like that talking to the screen. But if you need a more complex face, then you're gonna love level 8, because level 8 is all about mastering the talking head. So for now, we're gonna keep it super simple. All we're gonna do is have the eyelid and the pupil in the same layer. That's what we're gonna do. So let's do that. That's this layer. And then let's find this is the eye. I'm just gonna call it left iris. And then this one is right iris. And then this one is the nose. And then this is the mouth. Then we have the eyebrows, but the eyebrows are together. We need them separate. So for that, I'm just gonna open that group and look. Oh, okay, I see two groups. So instead of just taking them out, I'm just gonna ungroup this folder. With it selected, I press Ctrl Shift G. There you go. Now I have two distinct groups for the eyebrows. I'm gonna click to collapse and just rename this right brow, and then this one is left brow. Now the next is the eyelid. So I'm just gonna call it eye. This is right eye, and then this one is left eye. Very good. Then what layer is this? This is the face. So let me call it face. And then this is the ear. Yeah, this is one ear. This is the right ear. And then the left ear. Very good. Now what I'm gonna do is just take the right eye, put it together with the iris, and then combine both. Boom, there you go. This is gonna be the right eye. Then I'm gonna take the left eye, put it together with the iris, select them both. I just click on one, then hold shift, click on the other, and then press Ctrl E. There you go, but I wanted to call left eye. Very good. Then I'm gonna make all the other folders, I'm gonna make them into layers. I'm just gonna press Ctrl E, then the mouth, Ctrl E, the brow, Ctrl E, the other brow, Ctrl E, face, Ctrl E, then the ear and the other ear. Let's see, what is this path? Oh, this is the back hair. Let's rename it back hair. This is very important because in the rigging, we're gonna take that hair, and then in the final version of this character, let me just show it to you. Right now, we're gonna leave it like that, inside the folder of the talking head. And it doesn't look good. But in the final rigging in Cartoon Animator, it's gonna look like this. It's gonna look behind the character. So don't worry about that. I'm gonna teach it to you. Right now, let's leave it like this. It doesn't look good, but it will look good in the end. So that's it. Let me just collapse the talking head. This is the only folder we want. Everything else we want it on a layer. And again, if I had different hands, I would have all of them like this. it would be a couple of hands, different versions of the hand, then a couple of versions for the other hand, etc., etc. But for now, we're making things super simple. In the next lesson, we're gonna start importing the PSD, which is step 3 in the rigging roadmap. Okay, so let's move on to the next lesson. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this lesson, we're gonna do something super fast, super easy, and that is to import the template. Okay, so again, in the rigging roadmap, we already did character, the preparation for the character, and right now we're gonna be doing step 3, importing the template and setting it up. So for that, you can go to the project files and then get the templates. I'm gonna use the 360. Let me open it. And we're gonna use this one, the G3, the frontal view. Let me open it. And all I'm gonna do is I like to collapse this and then select all the folders. I just have the bone human selected. I press shift, click on the image, and then click and drag all of this into our project Hipster Girl. And then I release the click, and that's it. Gonna import. Let's change the size. I'm gonna do that in fast forward. Okay, there you go. And now I feel this is a little bit tight, so I'm gonna increase the size of the workspace. For that, I can just go to the crop tool and then just expand it from the sides, but holding Alt, so it expands from the center. And that's it. I'm gonna press enter and we're done. Now remember, this is very important. When you import the template and you want to use any character you have and be able to import motion clips and do everything super easy, you want to remember what we discussed in an earlier lesson. You want your rig to have the same exact position as the template. So that's what we're gonna do now. This is how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna take all this template, those 3 folders, and put it at the very bottom of our project. So in the layers panel, I just click and drag all the way down and keep holding it down here and put it just above the background. That's it. Now I'm gonna have that same position for her arms. Okay? This is gonna be tricky because look, I'm trying to select the hair crosses. The hair crosses are part of a layer. All those hair crosses are one layer. So what can you do? Okay, first of all, if you haven't seen the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you have to watch it. Don't panic. The big friendly words in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't panic. I'm here to help. Check this out. It's super easy to fix. All we need to do is extract the bones of one arm and then extract the bones of the other arm. For that, I have the hair cross layer selected, and then I can just go to the toolbar and select the lasso tool. In this case, I'm gonna use the natural lasso tool. Again, I'm not using the pen, I'm using the mouse. And then I just click and drag like this, and then I press Ctrl-Shift-J. Okay, this is what happened. I extracted those from the layer. Look, can you see? It's another layer. Let me tell you, you can press Ctrl-Shift-J, I'm gonna undo, or you can also go to Layer, New, and then Layer via Cut, which is Shift-Control-J, and in Mac I believe is Shift-Command-J, and that's it. Now I'm gonna select the hair cross. Actually, let me just put hair cross left arm. I'm gonna do the same with the other side. I press L to select the lasso tool, or you can also pick it from the tools bar. And then again, I just select those 3 crosses, press Ctrl-Shift-J, and then I'm gonna rename it hair cross right arm. There you go. Now this should be way easier. I'm gonna press V, and then look at what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna press Ctrl and then click, then Ctrl-Shift, click, On the forearm, and actually I'm gonna go a little bit down, and then Control Shift, click on the hand, and then with Control Shift selected, pressed, I'm gonna click on the hair cross. So now I have all those layers selected. I can take them and move them around. Can you see? Let me undo that movement. And what I'm gonna do is take this pivot point and put it so it can rotate from the shoulder. Now I rotate and put the arm in that same angle. Now remember, I want to have the same angle, not put it in that position, because as you can see, I'm crossing over the angle. So I want it in the exact I want to form parallel lines right there. And then I press enter. Perfect. I'm gonna do the same with the other side. I press Control, then click, then Control Shift, click on the forearm, click on the hand, and then Control Shift, click on the hair cross. Now I move the pivot point into the center of the shoulder and rotate it from there. There you go. It has to be a parallel line. Perfect. Now this character is ready to be rigged. Finally. Okay, so the last thing I want to do to have everything prepared is I'm going to merge again all these layers. I'm gonna just have the hair cross, then Shift, click on this on the left arm, the hair cross left arm, and then press Control E and just rename it and remove and just have hair cross as the name. Perfect. Now I go down, select all these template, the bone human, Shift, and then image, and then click and drag and put it to the top. I'm dragging until I get to the very top of the layers panel, and that's it. Okay, so now we are ready. We have imported the template and put the character in that exact position. Great. Now in the next lesson, we're gonna be rigging the image for the body, the body image layers. Okay, see you in the next lesson. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this video, we're gonna rig the images for the body of this character. So what I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna go super fast using the automated sequence, the rigging accelerators we provided in Photoshop. But first, I'm gonna explain how you do this rigging when you don't have those accelerators. So here's where we left off. And in Photoshop or Affinity or the software you're using, you will have this folder, right? So if I open it, I will see that I have the left hand, forearm, arm, and all of that. So the first thing you need to do is put all these layers in the same order as the ones here. So first we need the hand, forearm, and left hand, left forearm. Those should be the first one, so these two. And then we need the right hand, right forearm. Okay, so then the right hand and right forearm, and so on. And after you put them in order, you just drag the images from here into the folder. Now, that can be a little bit time consuming. So for us, what we're gonna do, if you have the rigging accelerators, you can just take this folder and delete it. And then I'm gonna select the hand, open the rigging accelerators, which is the actions. And remember, I have this in button mode. Usually is like this, but I can just click here and then button mode. There you go. And the ones we're gonna be using are these ones, the ones for the body. So first we have the left hand, then left forearm, then the right hand, right forearm, then the hip, then the left arm, the right arm, the left thigh, left shank, and left foot, and then right thigh, right shank, and right foot. That's it. Now all I do is select all the body, which is not the talking head, the glasses, and all of that. Is from the left hand, I select there, then Shift, click on the right foot, and just create the folder right here. Boom, there you go. So now we have this ready. Now in the next lesson, we're gonna do the same rigging of the images, but for the talking head. See you in the next lesson. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this lesson, we're gonna do the rigging for the images of the talking head. Okay, so again, in here, I'm gonna use Photoshop and use the rigging accelerators. But first, I'm going to explain how you can do it manually, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do it super fast using the rigging accelerators. Okay, so let's get it started. This is where we left off in the last lesson. We rigged the body image, and then we have the talking head, right? And actually, these two layers, now that I think about it, these two also belong to the talking head. So what I'm gonna do is just select the hair front, then Control, click on glasses, and bring those to the talking head. And oh, actually, I need this to not be in a group. I'm gonna press Ctrl-Shift-G. There you go, that's how it should be. And from here, I'm gonna be rigging the face. So let's get it started. For those of you who don't have Photoshop and you can't use the rigging accelerators, you can use the manual way. You just open the talking head, and remember, ignore everything and just focus on the center. Then open it, and then start putting each of the layers in here. But first, remember, the first thing you need to do is put these layers right here in the template. Put these layers in the same order as you have them in your character design. Once you do that, then you can start putting the hair cross is not gonna be used, but the hair front, I can just take it and then bring it to front hair. But always, this is a recommendation, always open and make sure there's not a normal folder. Like for example, the nose. In here, we need to put the nose in the normal folder. Make sense? And the eyes are a little bit more complicated because you have to open them, then open normal, and then put the eye in the eye white, right? Let me undo all of that. And that's what you're gonna be doing. Let me make sure that the folders are empty. Yes, the nose, and then the front hair is also empty. Perfect. So that is how you do it. You do it manually. It's no big deal, but it takes time. Now, if you have Photoshop and you can do this with the rigging accelerators, then let's do this super duper fast. The only thing is that the face has different parts. It has, actually, I'm gonna ignore the body, is this. We have the face, the eyes, and the mouth. So any part, when I'm rigging an eye, it's not gonna just be the eye. I have to go to this panel. And when I'm rigging the mouth, I'm gonna go to this panel. So let's go step by step. I'm gonna start with hair front. So for that is called front hair. There you go. Now the glasses should also be rigged, but because we don't have a preset, this is the only part of this character, then I have to double click here, copy that name. I just press Ctrl-C, enter, then Ctrl-G, and rename that group with the same name, glasses. And then I collapse it and then select the left eye. Now from here I can continue. This, as I mentioned, this eye is not gonna have, well, actually, you know what, let me remove that head. For this, I just open the talking head, well, actually, I can just control click on this head, on this face, and delete it. There you go. Now we can see. I collapse it, and in here, the eye is not going to be complicated. Again, as I mentioned in the earlier lessons, this is going to be a simple rig. Later in level 8, we're gonna go all in rigging a 360 head with all the complicated different types of eyes. But right now, this is going to be an eye that doesn't have an eye white. That means the pupil cannot move inside. It's just gonna be like that to keep it super simple, okay? So let's do this. With the left eye, the button I'm going to use is eye with no iris. that means the eye doesn't have an eye white. Okay, so I click there, and this is the left eye. So after I click there, I'm gonna select the type of eye it is. It's gonna be normal. And finally, this is the left eye, so I'm gonna click on left. There you go. I do the same with the eye. Let me do this a little bit slower, and let me use the annotations to explain. First, we use the no iris because this eye doesn't have an iris. And then we choose the normal because it's gonna be the default normal kind of eye. Now, if I had different types, then I would continue clicking on no iris and then smile close, then no iris and then the eye close, etc. That we're gonna do that in level 8. But right now it's just iris. This is first step. Then step 2, I wanted to put a 2. Step 2 is normal. And then step 3, the folder for the eye. Okay, so let me do that again, a little bit slower with the right eye. First, I click on no iris. Then I click on normal. And then I click on right eye. There you go. Now, the nose. For the nose, I go to the face section again. And I click on nose. Then the mouth. Again, the mouth is a complicated layer. And actually, it's easier than the eyes, but it's also complicated. I have to first select the type of mouth, and then I select the mouth. So let's click on normal, and then I create the folder for the mouth. That's it. And then I continue the rest of the face right here. So in here, I just click on right eyebrow, right brow, left brow, then the face, right ear, left ear, and back hair. There you go. Now this is almost done. The other thing I need to do is click on the back hair, then shift and click on front hair, and then I'm going to group it, but with those I'm going to create the center angle. I click there, and finally I create the talking head folder. There you go. Now, from this folder, you can see this folder right here, I'm only going to take the head bone. Let me take it and bring it to the talking head folder. So, now this talking head is ready. We have the bones, we have the center, which is all the images for the center angle of the face. Then we have the image, and we have the bone human. This folder right here is not useful anymore, so I'm gonna just delete it. There you go. And the hair cross are going to help us put every bone in the perfect place. And that's it. Let me collapse. And everything is ready now. I'm gonna press Ctrl 0 to zoom out. And this character is ready to be rigged with the bones. Now, in the next lesson, we're gonna be rigging the bones for the body. See you in the next lesson. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this video, we're gonna do the rigging for the bones of the body. Okay, so let's jump right in. Now, in other videos, we have done the reducing the opacity, but in here, we don't need it because we created this, the hair cross, remember? So those are gonna help us do this super fast. So let's get it started. I'm gonna go to the bone human and then open it. And then I'm gonna start with the toe knob. I'm gonna zoom in. Oops, let me zoom in here. And then start putting this in the proper place. So this is gonna be there, and then Alt open bracket, and here, then Alt open bracket, here, and then this is the joint. So this should be aligned with the hair cross. Then the shank, which is almost in place. Let me use the arrow keys in there. And then Alt open bracket, and then put this in place too. Then Alt open bracket, now this leg. And then Alt open bracket, Alt open bracket, Alt open bracket. This one has to be very precise right here. And then Alt open bracket. Then, well, actually, I'm thinking that for the legs, for the feet, because we don't have we're not gonna have the feet doing this like sprites, but when you have them, you want to put that sprite first and then rig the all the bones in that angle. Okay, and then don't worry, because the main bone, let me explain to you which bone. This bone, the one connecting between the heel and the ankle, is going to be the one that controls most of the foot. But right now, because we don't have the other switch, the other type of feet, then we're gonna just leave it like that. So let me continue. The next one is the thigh right here, and then which one is the next one? Oh, the head. So the head, I'm just gonna put it up here, and then the head should be synchronized with the face. This is the one, and thanks to the hair cross, we can do this really easily. And then the neck just has to go to the root of the neck, and then the hand. Which one? The right hand, right here. And then the wrist, right there. Then the elbow, then the arm. Right on. Then this hand, just put it in place. Then this one goes to the wrist, and then this one. You see how easy it is when you have the hair crosses? Very, very easy. Okay, so that's it. That's the rigging for the body. I'm gonna press Ctrl 0, and we're done. Now, in the next lesson, we're gonna be rigging the talking head. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this video, we're gonna rig the bones for the talking head. Okay, so for that, we are going to collapse this. This is what we did in the last lesson, rigging the human bones. Let me collapse it. And then I'm going to just take the hair cross and delete it because we don't need it anymore. Just select it and then press delete. And now I'm going to take the talking head folder and open it. Then open the head bone, and these are the layers we're gonna be using. So I take the back hair and then zoom in, and the back hair, remember, this is the back hair. So for the back hair, I'm gonna put the bone right here. And then I press Alt, open bracket, then the front hair. It's gonna be right here. And then remember, we have 2 layers for the hair, actually. Oh no, actually we made it 1. Yeah, that's great. Then let me go back, the front hair. And then the right ear, even though we don't see the ears, but I'm gonna put them anyway. So, because I want to be able to see them, I want to take the hair. I'm just gonna select the hair right here and make it invisible. Oh, not this one. Sorry, I have to click on Control and then click on this hair and then just hide it for a little bit so I can put the right ear in its place. Very good. And then the left ear on its place too. Then I'm gonna show the hair again and continue. So I was on the left ear, then I press Alt, open bracket, and this is the mouth. It's gonna go here. Then Alt, open bracket, this is the nose, and then the Alt, open bracket, this is the right eye. Let's center it. Then the left eye, then the eyebrow, and for the eyebrow, it's good to have them on the corner of the eyebrow. That is, instead of have it in the center, you want to have it on the root of the eyebrows. So let's do this. The next one is the left brow, and I put it there. And then finally, the face. Remember, the face has to be aligned with the bone of the body, the neck. Remember? So that's it. Now we are done with all the rigging. Now, there are a couple of elements. Remember, we have the glasses. Those are not taken into consideration. But don't worry, because Cartoon Animator is automatically going to create a bone for those glasses. So we're gonna leave it like that. And we're done. Let me just collapse everything. And that's it. I press Ctrl 0. And this character is fully rigged. Now all we have to do is save it and then do a testing, import it into Cartoon Animator 4 and just see if everything works perfectly. Remember, this is not gonna have the 360 head. That will be level 8. But for now, we are done with this level. Let's see if everything works perfectly and let's test it. We will do that in the next lesson. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 2danimation101.com. In this lesson, we're gonna finally do the test of all the rigging we did. So before we do the testing, let's take 1 minute to see everything we have done, because this is the very last step. Well, actually, step number 5 of the rigging roadmap. The first thing we did is start with the character. For that, we went to a stock place like this one. I was using Adobe Stock. You can also find these types of characters on similar sites like Shutterstock. So we downloaded it and then we understood the character. We opened it in Illustrator and then we made a selection and prepared the character right here. Now, all of that was step 1 and then step 2, preparing for the rigging. And the preparation for the rig ended up in here, preparing it in Illustrator, and then we moved on to exporting it to PSD and we opened it in Photoshop, from where we did a little bit more preparation, right? Then finally we imported the template right there into Photoshop, and then we put every bone in its correct position, which led us to this, the final rig. So everything we have done was steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in this step, we're gonna do step 5, which can be really quick when the character is simple, but when it's complicated, you're gonna go from step 5 to step 4, and then step 5, and then step 4, and so on. And actually in lesson 6, when we do the level 8 and practice the 360 head, we are also gonna go with some testing and then do some fixes and then testing. So it's back and forth, but we are finally ready for level 7. So now let's test it. All I do is go to Cartoon Animator and then open the project files. If you want to follow along, you can do it. This is the final rig we prepared, the Hipster Girl. So I can just take it and click and drag into Cartoon Animator 4. Now, this is the error I was mentioning, remember? The error is because this rig is on RGB, yes, but is on 16-bit. Okay, so this is very easy to fix. The RGB project has to be in 8 bits. So all you do is just create a new project pressing Ctrl N, and then it's gonna have the same size, but look, there's gonna be RGB color, and then you want it to be 8-bit. Okay, I click on create. There you go. Then I go back to the other project. Now this is the rig, and then just take everything in here, click, and I've just selected the image, then press shift and then bone human, and then I just take all those folders, click and drag into the new document right here. I drop it in there, put it in place, and now I save it in lesson 16, and this is gonna be Hipster Girl rig corrected. There you go. And now look at this. I open Cartoon Animator 4, and by the way, let me just remind you, that error not only happens when the RGB has the different bits, but also when you put another color type like CMYK. So that is good to know, and all of them have a very easy fix. So let's continue. Now all I do is bring this, the corrected one, and bring it into the workplace, and there you go. Now everything works. Nothing disappeared. Now everything is almost ready, but there's only one problem. We still need to have the hair behind everything. Remember the back hair. So in here is when we fix that. I just go to the layer panel. I'm gonna collapse everything. Let me make, this is gonna go outside the screen. So let me make this smaller and then click on the options, list collapse. And now I'm going to, let me expand this again. Now I'm going to open the talking head, take the hair. I'm scrolling down. I'm gonna take the hair and then click and drag and put it below everything. Right there. Can you see? There it is. Now this character is ready. I just go to the selection tool and then I'm gonna press preview. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit. I press preview and now everything should work perfectly. Look, yes, I like it. Let me zoom in to see how everything works perfectly. And also I can move the shoulders a bit like this. And then also I can move the legs, rotate them individually. Perfect. To do, look, super duper cool. And also I can take it like this, right? So it's working. I love it. And finally, I can move the head, rotate it like this, or move it with the neck. And finally, I can move the torso. Alrighty, she's kind of doing a weird dance. Hey, hey, hey. So that's it. Let me press preview, then go back. And this character is ready. Now I can take this and insert an animation clip. I can open motion, then G3 human, then turn female, then front. And for example, I can do the pose stand. I just double click. There you go. And that's super stylish. And I can have her complain. There you go. Now everything worked perfectly because we put the character in the correct position. Remember that we had to put the arms like this? That's all it took. So that's it. Now in the next couple of lessons, in the next lesson, we're going to talk about the challenge. It's going to be a little bit more challenging than the other ones. And then we're going to go to level 8. So remember, you are not done with level 7 until you can do it by memory. Okay? So I'll see you in the next lesson in which we will talk about the challenge. See you there. Hi, Mark Diaz here for 3danimation101.com. In this video, I'm gonna give you the challenge for level 7. Okay, the challenge is to create everything by memory, but I'm gonna challenge you. This is gonna be very interesting because you already know all the theory and everything. Now, in this lesson, I want to push you into the abyss, basically, jumping into the unknown. So for a lot of you, it can be scary because you are used to getting all the answers, but you need to develop one part of your brain that handles problem solving. It's called the hippocampus. And this part is actually the one that can have neurogenesis. Just if you didn't know, you can create new neurons. This is not science fiction, this is real. Your brain can produce new neurons. And that is the place where you're challenged and you have to solve problems. That's the part of your brain that develops. So I want you to develop it and find out. I'm not going to give you the answer. It's going to be a really hard challenge. What you have to solve is to create this character with another configuration, but I want you to add the different types of hands and the different types of foot. Just these two, the one facing front and the one facing to the side. Okay, so that's it. In the rigging process, there's gonna be little subtleties, especially when you are preparing it in Photoshop, because look, inside the image, the resolution image, and if I open the hand, I only have one option. So what you have to have is the different types of hands right here, But the challenge goes in the preparation right here, because every single hand has to be synchronized with this circle. Okay, so be careful with that. And the same should have to be with this. All the other angle of the foot should be synced with this. And the challenge is that if this version had this modification, then the other one has to also have that modification. Now, for some of you, this challenge is like, piece of cake. But for those of you who are not very logical, you're gonna grow so much. So I really want to push you and challenge you with this. I'm not gonna give you the answer. You have to solve it by yourself. With this, you're gonna become a really good rigging artist. I don't know if there's such a thing, but if there isn't such a thing, then we're making it up right here. A rigging artist. Okay? So hopefully there's none. So we're the first one using it. If it's already there, then you're gonna be a rigging artist. Everybody knows about them. So anyway, that's it. And now in the next couple of lessons, we're gonna cover level 8. So my recommendation, don't move to level 8 until you master and complete this really difficult challenge. Well, for some of you it is difficult. For some of you, you're like, I thought you had a challenge. But really do it, okay? And after you do it, I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.